Hey everyone.
Hello, and welcome to the HSE half hour. My name is Laura Aucott. I'm the head of networks and communications at the Executive Network Group. Myself and my colleague Laura, who I'm joined with today, we're going to be bringing you a half hour live show every month, HSE half hour, on all things recruitment and safety. So over to you, Laura. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm hoping a lot of you do know me already, but yeah, my name's Laura. I am Associate Director for HSE Recruitment and Executive Network Group. So I have been doing health and safety recruitment for 12 years now, so quite a long time, and really passionate about trying to progress the industry. You know, there's been a lot of change in the safety industry since I joined it, and the sort of professionals and the way that we look at things, but there's still quite a lot of work to do on perception, I think, and that's where this branding stuff comes in for me. So yeah, hopefully it should be quite an interesting session.
So as head of networks at E&G, I work closely with Laura and our specialist health and safety recruitment team. My role is predominantly around research, creating white papers and series of content around safety, industry trends, information, predominantly for our clients, but we wanted to share some of this information with our wider LinkedIn network. So over the next few months on these health and safety half hours, myself and Laura are going to be discussing everything from safety salaries, diversity and inclusion, right through to talent attraction tips. So we thought we'd start today with one of Laura's favourite topics, which is all around personal branding. So it is a live and interactive session, so please feel free to ask any questions in the comment box. We'll also have a Q&A opportunity at the end of the session. So if we can start off with yourself, Laura, you know,
yeah, sure.
Give us an overview of what personal branding is. Why should we be interested in it?
Yeah. Why do we even care about it? So okay, so personal branding is basically it's selling yourself. That's all it boils down to at the end of the day. And I think a lot of people in health and safety don't necessarily consider themselves salespeople. And I think we have to. You know, health and safety is all about engaging with people. It's all about creating connections, and having a really strong personal brand, you know, in person and on social media is really going to help us with that sort of stuff. All of this kind of boils down to just a little bit of technical stuff here, the halo effect. So the halo effect was basically a term that was coined by a psychologist back in 1920. So a guy called Edward Thorndike. And what he did is he looked at how relationships between officers and their commanding officers were built. And he basically came up with this thing, the halo effect, that meant that when someone has a good impression of someone and they believe them to be a good person or to be good at one particular thing, that kind of leaks out into everything else that they do. So, if they think they're particularly good at one aspect of their job, then they'll probably assume they're probably quite good at the rest of their job. It's the reason why celebs tend to get away with, cheating on their taxes or cheating on their partners. Not advising that you use it for that, by the way, but yeah, it's because you've got a good impression of them, so you kind of you let them get away with stuff. So when it comes to health and safety, health and safety people have been quite siloed, I think, in the past, and working very instantly. So when you create a strong personal brand, you get to share all that stuff that you get to engage with people, you get to make the industry better. And it's also got some really good benefits, for you and your company. So lots and lots of good things to it, which is good. I think it's quite a competitive market out there at the moment. You'd say that, wouldn't you, Lauren?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Hugely.
So, and that's massively off the back of COVID and the pandemic. The pandemic was safety related, so it was a time where employers really sort of started to understand the value of health and safety, and they're investing more in their teams, they're hiring more, they're putting salaries up, and all of this is great, but it just means there's more competition for jobs. People are kind of going head to head for stuff. So personal branding is a way that you can make yourself stand out, I think, from the crowd as well, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So where would you start with personal branding if you were, just starting on the personal branding journey? Where would I kind of go first?
So personal branding is huge, right? We could talk about this for hours, and we've got half an hour. So I'm going to give you the headlines here on where you start with personal branding. But if you're a safety professional and you want to create a strong brand and stand out and get people, approaching you, this is the really cool thing about it, is that, you won't have to necessarily apply for jobs anymore. We're going to come and find you because you're standing out that much. There's lots and lots of different ways you can go about that. Simple things to start with is, I am a huge fan of LinkedIn. As you know, I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn 24 hours a day. I'm obsessed with it. LinkedIn is such a powerful tool, but I think most people don't use it in the way that it's meant to be used. LinkedIn is about connecting and engaging with people. And I think what a lot of people do is they create their LinkedIn profiles and then they kind of just sit there and wait for something to happen. And that's never gonna make you stand out. That's never gonna create a strong brand. So the first thing with LinkedIn is make sure you're following people that you're interested in, following people that are, in the sector, that are doing cool things, that are doing exciting things. And then you just got to start engaging with their content. Just sort of going and liking someone's status, that's not engaging. And that's not going to make you stand out. What you need to do is start talking to those people. If they share an interesting blog or an interesting article, go and comment on it, tell them your opinion on it. Start those conversations. And then what that's going to do, people are going to start noticing you and think, oh, okay, I saw him talking about this the other day on LinkedIn, and that, because of the halo effect by association, makes me think, oh, he's probably quite a good safety professional. He knows what he's talking about. He's really passionate. He's really engaged. So that would be tip number one. If anyone's writing these down, tip number one is go on LinkedIn and actually use LinkedIn for what it's for. Connect with people, engage with people, share content, talk to people. The next step up from that is creating content. And I think this is where people get a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
And I know, your job is creating content, isn't it? So you're quite used to this.
Yeah, but it's hard to know where to start, and you're thinking, what if no one, what is the reaction going to be? What if no one reacts at all? It's quite difficult to start that journey. So from a personal point of view, of course, I do it on the behalf of our business, but it's from a safety professional point of view. It's like, yeah, what do I start with?
Yeah, I completely get that, and that's what most people say. When we start talking about personal branding and creating content and starting to put yourself out there, is I don't know what to say. I don't know how to create content. I don't know what people are interested in. And the big thing here for me is just trial and error. Is just put things out there and see what happens. If you are genuinely talking about stuff that you are passionate about, that you're interested in, you're going to get a reaction. There is going to be people that are going to engage with you, and that you're going to get some sort of response. And if you don't, it's not the end of the world. It still shows people what you're interested in. So, for example, blogs, right? People get really scared about writing blogs. LinkedIn couldn't make it. This isn't an advert for LinkedIn, by the way, but LinkedIn couldn't make it easier for you to write blog pieces. That you literally go on, and in the status bar, there's an area where you can write an article. And this is something that I do quite a lot. I know you do quite a lot, and they don't have to be complicated. The great thing about creating content is just is sharing what you know. It's sharing your wisdom, sharing what you think. So the easiest place to start with a blog is what I call an opinion piece, which is, it does what it says on the tin. You write down what you think on a certain situation, and then you ask people what they think. And that tends to be the blogs that I write most of the time, because I'm in the safety world, I'm embedded, but I'm not a safety professional, I'm not an expert. So I'm just sharing my opinion. I'm sharing what I thought about the situation, and I'm asking people to engage with me on it. So the last couple of blog pieces I wrote, we did one on Formula One, because there was that big crash during one of the races, and the halo saved the drivers, and so we wrote a little piece on that, because I was going to say it's something I'm interested in. It's something my husband is interested in that he made me watch. But I put my safety head on and thought, oh, okay, that's quite interesting. Actually, I can start talking about this. And then the next piece was I watched that Woodstock 99 documentary. which
that was
really good, right? Yeah.
good but mad.
But mad, yeah, and that gripped me because I'm a '90s kid. That was my scene.
Yeah.
I remember going to these gigs and these festivals and how unsafe things were. Obviously not on that sort of scale, but and as someone who works in safety now, I've seen the difference. So again, that was a really, really easy piece to write and put together because I'm just talking about this is what happened in the show. This is my experience of it. This is what I've seen in the safety world. And then I was sort of putting out a call to action for other people in the events world to, okay, well, come and tell me what is it like now? What are the differences? Did you see massive differences in this documentary to how you do now? And again, so that's just a really, really simple way of engaging people. I think the other thing that scares people sometimes with blogs is they think they're not the world's best writer. Now I don't know. I actually don't know about you, but I didn't go to school for journalism or English. Did you?
No, definitely not.
No. All right. So, but that doesn't mean you can't. Yeah, that doesn't mean you can't write something. And what's super, super important when you're creating a brand on social media is that it's genuine. It is you. So when you're writing a blog, write it as you. Don't try and use fancy words that you would never use. It's got to be in your vernacular. It's got to sound like you,
or be authentic.
Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise, people can see through it from a mile away. And the whole point of branding is you're trying to get people to understand who you are, so that they can come to you with opportunities, so that they can understand your point of view about safety, so they can share things and make the industry better.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what's really cool about this, I think, is that if we get loads more people doing this and really creating stronger brands and engaging and putting content out there and start talking about all the positive stuff that we do in health and safety, right? Because that you never read about, because all you ever read is someone died.
Stories.
Exactly. Yeah. And health and safety is so much more than the things that go wrong. Health and safety is one of those industries where if you do it right, people will think you did nothing at all because stuff doesn't get right. So we have to talk about the positives and share it. And in the 12 years I've been in the industry, I've seen a huge change in how safety professionals perceive themselves, and I've seen a huge change in how a lot of companies perceive their safety teams. But what we've still got loads of work to do is how the general public perceive health.
I'll just jump in here, Laura, because we've had a couple of real interesting comments. So,
sure.
William has mentioned, creating content is something that we do every day as a safety professional in the industry. So what he tends to do is make it more topical, maybe from like flipping around a news story, give different views. That's how you can grow as an individual. Totally agree with that. And another is from Thomas, who's mentioned, blogging is a real interesting subject. And on here, as in on the LinkedIn platform, is one thing, but to try and get search engine results is very different. And I totally agree with that, because then you're kind of, discussing SEO, how to kind of boost up ratings and how to kind of jump on that. And I think to get started with an online blog away from LinkedIn definitely can be, a real good thing to do. Probably takes a little bit more time to get engagement and to drive those results, but it is something that can definitely be considered. LinkedIn is great for that social aspect. And if you're looking for engagement, looking to expand your personal brand, it probably is a real good kind of starting point. But, again, a good point here, people are engaging with real people. So blogging, vlogging, YouTube, it is a fantastic way to get across. If you don't feel that confident writing and maybe are more confident in front of a camera or podcast, then go for it. But so we'll move on to the second point, and please do keep your questions and thoughts coming. But so if I was a safety professional, how can a personal brand help if I'm seeking a new role?
Right. Okay. So as we said, look, it's crazy competitive out there at the moment. And I think a lot of people are probably, quite comfortable in their jobs as well, because like I said, in the pandemic, safety was valued and the safety teams were valued. And a lot of people got pay rises and a lot of people got bonuses and they got rewarded for doing a great job throughout the pandemic, which is fantastic. And we're not saying that you absolutely have to move jobs. If you're happy, you're happy. But the good thing about building a personal brand for you personally as a safety professional is you're becoming more well-known and people are going to find you. So that's traditionally what we do, at HSE Recruitment. If we're recruiting for a client, we don't tend to fill by job adverts and things like that. We fill because I've come out and I've found you. And it's a lot easier for me to find you if you've got a strong personal brand. And again, that doesn't have to just be social media. People get very wrapped up in the social media of it, but personal branding is you. It's how you sell yourself. And that can be word of mouth in the industry. So that can be, going out and joining local IOSH branch meetings, and speaking to people there and sharing your experience there. Word will get out. We will hear about those sorts of people. And whether that's then getting engaged with like IOSH conference, getting engaged with, different, like you said, videos and podcasts, whatever it is, that sort of stuff is going to, increase your name and make it a lot easier for people to find you. But even if you're not job hunting and you don't think that we can approach you with anything that would make you want to leave, there's still good reason to do this, because it's making you stand out as a leader in the safety market, and that's good for the safety profession. And I think we're all in health and safety because we care about it. We want to make people safer and we want to make things better. And if you step up and say, look, this is what I'm doing, this is what works great for us, this is all the positive stuff that I'm doing, again, because of that halo effect, it's going to spread. And your company is going to look really, really great, and all the people you associate with is going to look really, really great, and we're going to change that public perception about health and safety. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think, there has been some nervousness, and we've had a couple of comments here around how do I differentiate my opinion from my company's opinion, and also another one is, posting content for content's sake. So people are nervous around not getting the engagement that they hope for, feeling like a little bit of, it's like fear of failure, isn't it then? So
I completely get that. Two separate issues there. So we'll start with the fear of failure thing, which is completely understandable. And I am not encouraging to post content for content's sake, because as we said, everything's got to be genuine. If you are just doing stuff so that someone will talk about it, or you're just, say you join a mentoring scheme, not because you actually want to be a mentor, but because you think it's going to make you look really good, people are going to see through that. That is, it's still got to be genuine. It's got to come from the heart. So that's why we always say about it doesn't have to just be social media, because some people aren't comfortable with it. And if you're not comfortable with Twitter and you're not comfortable with Instagram, don't use them. That's fine. I mean, you'll see, I love LinkedIn, because LinkedIn for me is that right level of, personal and professional, but I can't get my head around Twitter at all. I'm too old for Twitter. I don't understand it. So I just don't really post on that. And that's fine. We don't want you to go and do things for the sake of doing them, because that's not real. But if you are a committed and passionate health and safety person, you should be wanting to share all this stuff. You should be wanting to share this great stuff that you do. So I saw one of the Irish branches, they've put a thing up about one of their members has offered people to come and look around his site. He's going to do a site tour and things like that. That stuff's brilliant. I guarantee he's not doing that to build a personal brand. It's just, it's a great side effect of it that makes him look great, but it's brilliant for the industry. That's getting people who maybe are newer that can come along and see what he does. People from different industries can come over and pick his brain and, see how they do things differently in, a different sector to what they specialize in. So all of that stuff is great anyway. So I know it's easy to say, but try not to worry about failing and just share what you want to share. So sometimes you'll do these things and people will say, well, post one piece of content every day. And I will never advise that, because, as much as I'm on LinkedIn all the time, you'll see that sometimes there's a week and I don't post anything because I haven't got anything to say. So I'm not just going to do it for the sake of it, because that would be pointless. You would be able to tell that my heart's not in it. So I don't think set yourself any defined goals or timescales. Just try and make it an extension of you in the way that feels natural. There was a 2-pointer and I can't remember what the first.
So a part of that point was, can you offer some advice where HSE professionals can seek inspiration, to get dialogue going within their networks? And then the other side of that was nervousness around, I'm now linked to my company,
the company.
my own. So how can we kind of expand on that?
I completely understand. you never want to be too controversial, although it is your opinion. Again, because of the halo effect, things are going to get linked. Let's be honest. If we see someone talking and they work for a certain company, there is going to be some sort of association. You can do the classic, these views are my own and not not representative of my company's on everything you post. But I think the stuff that we're posting shouldn't be controversial anyway, right? Because if you're a safety person, the stuff that we're encouraging you to talk about is the good stuff. We don't want you to come out and talk about, necessarily, well, you could, but probably most of the time you don't want to come out and talk about this is what went wrong and, this is why, because there are negative kind of connotations to it. And we're trying to make people like the safety industry more and get that we're doing good things and that we're keeping people safe. So most of the stuff that you're talking about should be positive. In which case it's a positive association for the company. They shouldn't have any problem. And most of the people we talk to about this, when they go back, they talk to, the guys that run their company LinkedIn page and social media and stuff, and just double check with them. Are you cool with me writing blogs? Are you cool with this? Because that's fine. If they have to say, well, look, stuff just has to be checked, that's not a problem. But look, stuff you're posting shouldn't be too controversial anyway. I know there are people that get famous on LinkedIn from posting content. But I don't recommend it, to be honest, purely for the mental health, because you don't want people yelling at you all the time. I mean, it's not good.
Trolls on LinkedIn is what we want to avoid. So moving on to the next point, we've talked about, from a job seeker perspective, how can this help? But what about when you're hiring for your own team? So how can personal branding help? If I was a safety professional wanting an advisor or manager, etc., how can personal branding help me?
Okay. So you're gonna hear me say it again, because it's one of my favorite things, the halo effect. This is huge when you're hiring. As we said, it's major competitive out there, right? Everybody wants the best safety people, and a lot of the best safety people are quite happy. They don't want to move. We've got to go and headhunt them. We've got to go approach them. It massively helps my case, your case, their case, if we can approach them with something really interesting. And that's not just the company and the company's values and the role, but that's who they're working with. That's what people are interested in at the end of the day, because what's that old saying? People don't walk away from bad jobs, they walk away from bad managers. You spend so much time with people at work. It's hugely important that you get on with those people, you share the same values, you've all got the same goal in mind. So it's all very well and good if we go and approach people, we say, X company is looking, they really value teamwork, that's one of their values, and they live and die by teamwork. You don't really know that's true, do you? You're taking my word, we're taking the company's word for it. But if you can go and look at their health and safety manager or the head of health and safety, and you can see the way he's engaging, the way he's talking about his team, he's sharing all this amazing stuff they've been doing, you'll understand, okay, this is someone who genuinely lives and breathes that value, and they're going to want to come and work for you. So when it's this competitive, it's more important than ever that we can sell your company and your role to someone and make it interesting to them. And you as the head of health and safety is a big selling point. So I've used this example before. And I don't think he's watching, but Ian Stacey, if you are, sorry, I'm going to mention you again. But we recruited for him back when he worked at London Zoo. And look, London Zoo was an interesting offering anyway. Right, that was something people were interested in. They're like, okay, it's they do all this conservation work. They've got these really interesting risks. They've got the live, people risk aspect to it. All of that's really, really interesting. But what the kicker was for them was when I could go and show them Ian on social media, and they could see that he was entering all these industry awards. They were putting up these videos and these cool blogs. He was living and breathing health and safety, as were the whole team. And that just draws people in. They want to work with people like that. The example I always use is Richard Branson and Virgin Media, right? People want to work for Virgin because they love Richard Branson. So you've got to think of it in that sort of way. Yeah,
no, that's really interesting. I think, from what we've learnt today, and I definitely want to pick your brain a little bit more about the halo effect. I'm sure I'll be doing that work. But I think, to be authentic in your personal branding is really key.
Yeah.
I think, from what you've said about how that can inspire others, whether you're a job seeker, whether you're seeking someone to work with you, that's really important. But I know that a lot of people in the comments have been saying, right, how do I get that kind of dialogue going? And from my point of view, is to share. So if you do write something, whether that's a short article, if it's a post, if it's a picture that you've shared, create your own network on LinkedIn, reach out to other safety professionals, say, hey, I've just written this, what are your thoughts? Please may take a look, share it, get your own community within LinkedIn. And that's how you will expand your reach. That's how you will expand your network. So that, I think, again, especially for people that are a little bit nervous and they're like, I'm not the world's best writer, or, how will this go down? It's all about kind of testing it, and you never know till you try. So that would be kind of my bit of advice there. But I think, we'll have a look. If there's any further questions, please do put them in the comment box. I can see here, that someone has written about writing professional topics on LinkedIn or other social media, that they find it quite difficult sometimes to relate it to health and safety. People are always on the look for bad news, apparently, on social media.
Yeah, that's true though,
yeah, people like to, like controversy and stuff like that. And the main goal of health and safety is to prevent accidents, etc. So, I mean, how would you flip that, Laura, into, people are looking for controversy or bad news or something going viral?
Yeah.
There's some nervousness around that. How would they link their writing?
I think, right, we need to have more faith in people. I completely agree. Bad news sells, and things go viral because people mess up or they do something stupid. I completely get that. But about 6 or 7 years ago, HSE Recruitment as a company, we sat down and we were talking about our company values and what was important to us. And we were talking about this whole thing that health and safety is positive, but we never get to see any of it. And even though it wasn't what was out there in the news at the time, and it wasn't what was shared on social media, we made a conscious decision that from now on, we are only going to talk about the good things. We're only going to talk about the positives, and we're going to see how that works. And it flew. People really, really want to hear the good stuff. They do. Don't get me wrong. The bad news always sells. If you look at SHP, their top read article every week is always about a fine or an accident. And that's never going to change. That stuff is still important to us. But this is just about changing the narrative bit by little bit. And I just think, just try the positive stuff. And I think you'll be really, really surprised at the engagement. But like you said, I think I always call it like borrowing cachet from people. Like going out and asking people to engage with you is the best way to start. Go and speak to someone like Louise Hosking is brilliant. She's always on LinkedIn. She's super interactive. If you know Louise, she's going to hate me for this. If you know Louise, go and say, I've just written something, Louise. Could you mention it? Do you think it's good? And people are always willing to help.
Yeah, definitely. So someone has actually asked if we'd consider, or probably you would consider, Laura, doing a 30-minute kind of 101 how to write a HSE blog. And I think that's
I would love that. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm not the expert. I did not go to school for this, but I can show you how I do it. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we can set that up. We're going to be doing these every month, and we've got the next couple of months planned out. But yeah, we'll get something like that on the diary.
Fab. No, that sounds good. So I think that pretty much brings us to the end of this session. So I think there's been some real key points of how personal branding can't just be, it doesn't just have to be limited to socials. Go and join some face-to-face networking. There's a lot of events going on in safety. We've got a whole calendar, I think, reaching into March next year. So if you want to know kind of what events that we're hosting and stuff, get in touch. But again, get started, build your own network, ask people, for advice. If they don't like a post, it's nice to have that feedback as well, to get better. But yes, some real good tips. So thank you for that, Laura.
No problem.
We're going to be discussing next month. Then what is next month's session?
Next month, I think, is one that everyone is always asking us about. We're going to be talking about salaries. So everybody wants to know, don't they? What, am I getting paid what everyone else is getting paid? Am I getting paid what I'm worth? What's happened to salaries over the last sort of 2 years? What are the trends? Where are they going? So we're going to be talking everything cash. That's the plan.
Cash money. Catch us then. Okay, thank you very much. This stream will be available on kind of our YouTube channel thereafter. But anything else that you need, feel free to reach out. We hope to see you on the next session, and we could definitely consider doing the kind of blog 101.
Lovely. Hope to see you soon. Bye.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.